Hello, this is Muriel Kramer with actions taken from the Select Board meeting from Tuesday, January 30th. The Select Board first opened the meeting and went into executive session to consider strategy with respect to negotiations with the fire and dispatch unions, to consider strategy with respect to contract negotiations with non-union personnel, the fire chief, and to consider the purchase, lease, sale, or value of real estate in relation to properties in the vicinity of Town Hall and South Street, property comprising of Elmwood 3 subdivision development, Hayden Row Kalila property, 0 Spring Street, also known as the McDonough property, and parcels owned by Umina off Chestnut Street. We also approved the executive session minutes of January 9th. We opened the session at 6:30 and our public forum was very well attended, and we took a little bit of an extended time to hear from residents. I did start the meeting with a formal apology to the survivor in the case that is related to the police matter that has been going on. I should say again that we are deeply sorry, and we look for ways to make the situation better for that person and anybody who is struggling with this situation. There were many residents there, and we did take the time to hear from a great many of residents. They spoke largely about the release of information that was inappropriate from the mistakes that were made with the redaction of the documents. Many people were rightly outraged and angry about that. They also spoke very passionately and consistently in support of Sergeant Timothy Brennan, encouraging the Select Board to consider thoughtfully and reconsider and reinstate Sergeant Tim Brennan. The next item, because we had taken so much time with that, which was fine, we did switch the order around. But in interest of this meeting, I will just say that we did eventually do the consent agenda, with the exception of the Marathon Fund request. We do require that we have 3 quotes for expenditures from the Marathon Fund. So we did it. They have plenty of time to readdress this. We did send it back to the Marathon Fund Committee, asking them to ask the applicant for the appropriate documentation before we approve the fund request. We accepted the minutes of January 2nd, January 9th, and January 11th. We accepted a very generous donation, actually a grant from the Friends of the Hopkinton Seniors to the town of Hopkinton in the amount of $25,000 for the Senior Services Program account for the programming at the Senior Center. So that's really appreciated and really exciting. You know, that will go to be used in many ways to support our seniors. And we also accepted with regrets and appreciation for service the resignation of John Cardillo from the Hopkinton Cultural Council. We next welcomed new town employees. Armando Nadro is our new facilities manager. Jessica Miller, Jax Miller, is actually being promoted. So she is not new to us, but this is a new job as the Assistant Library Services Director. Very exciting. Really happy to see her staying with Hopkinton and moving up in the organization. We also welcomed Rita Ben Chukri, a new payroll manager with a great deal of experience, and we're very delighted to have her helping out in the payroll department, the finance department at Town Hall. We approved the request for the extension of hours to sell alcohol at the Hopkinton Spoon. Samantha Prescott from the Spoon had requested the ability to serve alcohol from 8 a.m. versus 10 a.m. on Mother's Day, Father's Day, the first day of daylight savings, Thanksgiving Eve Day, Black Friday, and Christmas Eve. The current approved hours are 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. So on those days, we did approve the beginning of the ability to serve at 8 a.m. We discussed at length the consolidated budget submission. Very pleased to announce that on January 30th, we were able to announce to the town and to all town departments that we have a balanced budget. We had started the financial year with a little bit of a gap, and we have been able to mitigate for that gap, and we will be presenting, we have a balanced budget at this point that will now go forward in the process for a more deep dive review by the Appropriation Committee in the next couple of months leading up to annual town meeting, the first Monday night of May. And speaking of annual town meeting, we addressed the annual town meeting and we voted what articles we would submit to the warrant. The deadline is February 6th. And all of the proposed articles that the board had suggested will go forward. There is an article to correct a Scribner's error in the charter, which would make the charter consistent with what has been since the beginning. It's just the appropriate citation for Mass General Law for the police chief to be a strong chief in Hopkinton. The town manager went through a little bit of the history, and those documents will be made public for anybody who wants to review them. There was one article that I had proposed that we would have the town consider making it possible for residents living in Hopkinton who are citizens of other countries but have legal documentation or green cards and live, work, and raise their children here in Hopkinton, that they would be able to vote in local elections and at town meeting. That idea failed to get the requisite support from the other board members, so that that will not appear on the town meeting warrant this year. We will have a couple of articles to consider bylaw changes that would allow folks in that category to be able to speak at town meeting but not vote, and also consider clarifying for all boards and committees whether a person can participate if they're not actually a U.S. citizen but are here with the appropriate documentation. We postponed the discussion on the town manager transition plan till next week. We'll have several meetings this month. We meet again next week. We then discussed the deputy police chief recruitment. We had our HR director, Kristen Merrill, there to explain the past process. The board did vote to have a competitive internal and external search. We voted to use the services of a professional search agency and also ensure that applicants have the ability to participate in the assessment center process as well. This is the process that we used when we did the search for the fire chief. And the assessment center, candidly, was new to me, but it is an opportunity for candidates that have gotten through the first rounds of interviewing and are being put forward to consider as finalists. It's an opportunity for them to interact with real live scenarios and be rated and observed by folks with the appropriate experience in the field. So the assessment center would be, those candidates would be rated by other people, that are familiar with police work or are police officers themselves. We also elected to put the strategic planning process discussion forward because it was late. We also will consider the 2023 annual report at our next meeting next Tuesday. The town manager gave us an update of the Main Street Corridor project, also the PFAS treatment project, the MWRA project, and a staffing vacancy update that we had asked him for. And the good news is that there's an awful lot of hiring that has been going on, and the news from staffing in town hall is very good. And also we have 6 candidates apparently for the police department as well in their hiring process. So there's good news on the staffing vacancy. More information is available in the packet if people want to look at it, that the positions particularly. The MWRA process with Southboroughs is coming along really well. We should have an intermunicipal agreement to consider soon. We did keep a placeholder for any discussions that are necessary on the town meeting warrant. And so we'll maintain that in case we do need it to ensure that this process moves forward. The town manager also has a discussion with the DCR upcoming soon to consider whether or not we can have a station, an outpost terminal. I don't know the right word there to support this project as we work to connect the town water users to the MWRA utilizing the Southborough connection. The PFAS treatment project, people have seen pictures that the filtration system is up and the process is moving along more smoothly, and we do expect that it will be online in May 2024. So that's very good news. Less optimal news on the Main Street Corridor project, the little bit that is left. It is likely going to be delayed for a little bit longer. It's very hard to predict. We are still waiting on the supply chain with and also the cooperation of the utility company to make sure that those last bits are completed. But more on that as we go forward. Elmwood 3, we did vote to consider the donation of a parcel of land from the Elmwood 3 project development. And we have authorized the town manager and the town attorney to complete that exchange and sign the necessary documents to accept that donation. We also put off liaison reports and future board agenda items until next week. So that is actions taken for January 30th.